Hello friends, my name is RagePanda1 and this is my guide video for the Male Lume. His passive skill recovers all teammates' health by a percentage of his strength every 5 seconds. That means you have a constantly ticking heal over time. His active skill casts a chrono circle which dispels all teammates' debuffs and recovers all teammates' health by a percent of his strength. Now, what you need to actually realize about this skill is I've heard a lot of people say that this guy isn't good in arena. And I don't understand why they're saying that, because one of the reasons that the female Ignis, which is one of the most meta champs that people use in every arena team, bases her entire success on building burn stacks. In fact, when I make her video, I'm going to talk about how putting Pyromancer on all of your dudes is good because it makes her ult damage do so much more damage, and it makes everybody else do a lot more damage too, so you may as well have it. This guy's active skill is actually going to cancel out those burn stacks, and it can save you from taking as much damage from the female Ignis. They're probably going to have enough time that they can have some burn stacks on you by the time you take that ult, but not as many as you would have before. And there are many other debuffs that exist in this game that he will cleanse people of. That is huge, and it's a very underrated part of his kit. The only problem with it is that you don't really get to control when it happens. The ultimate skill casts Fate's Unwinding on an ally with the lowest constitution by percentage, and the effect lasts 5 seconds. If the ally is defeated, then they will be revived with health equal to a percentage of the caster's strength. We may be seeing a trend here. Strength is important, it affects all of your skills, so we want to be scaling our strength up on this character. Speaking of traits, the clan trait for the Lume is Sanguine. When the battle starts, you increase all champions' damage by 2%, and after that, you increase their damage by another percent every 2 seconds, up to a total of, for me, 12.6%. This effect cannot be removed or stacked, which means having more than one of them does nothing for you, but you don't have to worry about an enemy Male Lume clearing it off of your guys. The entire nature of this man's kit means that you are trying to sustain. That is the whole point. You are trying to survive as long as you can survive, and so you want to build things that are helping you survive as long as you can survive. Of course, since we need to stack our strength up, we're going to be going with Brutal on our Male Lume, and I also think that Aggressive is extremely good on him. Why? Because you're building for sustain, so you're giving yourself time to get maximum effect out of Aggressive, and it's going to help you heal people the best that you possibly can, and if you get to a second revive, you're going to be very glad that your person is reviving with even more health than they would have before. Total damage skills are not going to be as good, as well as I don't know if the crit from Eagle Eye actually affects how big the heals can be. Again, we need better testing environments so we can tell if that's actually good or not good. But I suspect it's probably not good even if it works. But since you're building a character that is trying to make your entire team sustain, then I think you want to have energetic, not just on the character himself, but on the rest of your team. The larger your health pool is, the more time that you're giving yourself to get these heals off. And the more healing that you get off, the more your effective health is. Effective health being the amount of actual damage that you have to take throughout the course of the entire battle to actually be killed. So in the vein of trying to survive and keep your team alive and sustain, which is the whole point of running this character in the first place, we have a beautiful new clan trait that is going to help us do that across all of our people. With Resilient, when we're in battle and our constitution goes below 30%, we will start healing for a percentage of our max health every second for 5 seconds. What does that give us? Incredible sustain. Now, I heard somebody saying that that's not very good and it doesn't have time to work. If you have energetic on, then it's as if you're starting this heal when you're at 42% of your base constitution that you would have had without energetic. And then if you happen to have a male Aeson on your team, or the Devout trait, then it is as if you are healing for 25% of your max health total at the end of the 5 seconds. And that's just based on my level 13 version of Resilient. I haven't had a chance to see the higher versions of it yet because I've had some family in the hospital and I've been very busy. So, you know, it is what it is. But even at these percentages, you're going to be healing for a crazy amount with this trait. This is a kind of trait that if you're going to take it on your team, aside from it just happening to be on your Devala person that you're using, then you want to put it on everybody on your team if you have the opportunity to actually be able to do that. If you're one of the lucky few people that has this companion, you want to get them to Mythic and put this and Energetic on everybody on your team. If you're doing that anyway, I think you should have a Male Lume on your team. And if you have a Male Lume on your team, then I suggest that you have the Devout trait somewhere on your team. Now, this is a trait that is very good, but it doesn't have to be on your Male Lume. If you don't want to use a Male ASN, then of course, instead of Resilient, you could be putting Devout, and you'll have a great time. It's gonna be fine. But he definitely wants this trait to exist on your team so that he's getting the most out of all of the healing, which is the whole point of his character. There's a big trend right now where people are going agile and focused and even occasionally ambitious on basically their whole team so they can get their ults as often as possible and try to get a second ult and use that to win the game rather than actually having high power or high defense or anything like that. If you are on that trend, then I still don't think that your Male Lume wants to be on that trend with you, because you want your ult to be going off when the enemy is actually casting their ults. So you want the timing to match where you're actually going to save somebody's life rather than do your ult early and then do it again, but neither of the times was anybody in mortal danger. If you're in the situation where you don't have Resilient available and you are using an ASN on your team so you don't need Devout on your character, then I would suggest looking for one of the traits that is going to increase team damage, such as hulking or the one from the Ugrals, something that's just going to buff your team. Because this is a support character, he doesn't care about his personal stats all that much. And if you have access to absolutely none of that, then you could go for something like Athletic if you're low enough level, or even Loyal just to survive more. We're not even going to look at positioning because it doesn't matter where he goes. Honestly, you can probably put him in slot 2 and he'll be fine, but he'll literally be fine anywhere. Just don't set him up with no defense so he's the one getting attacked by 4 enemies. That's it. For team synergies, of course, we've got the Male ASN, which provides a very useful trait for him while also doing some shielding, which helps you to sustain. It also increases all of the teammates' strength, which we know is going to boost our healing and our sustain. And he does a whole mess of damage. I would say the Male ASN is the perfect partner for the Male Lume. Everything that they do synergizes perfectly together, and it's a great way to stay in shape. Aside from that, the Male Lionstone, having the ability to shield the team, is incredibly useful for you to make sure that you're having time to be able to heal. When you have the ability to block damage like this, then your characters are going to get the healing that they're looking for instead of getting attacked, and a relentless assault takes them down before the heals have a full amount of time to do what they need to do. I will say that if you're going to pick the Male Lionstone, then I don't think that you should also pick the Female Lionstone, because then you're going to have 3 people on your team that are just not doing damage. So if you're one of the people that absolutely loves Female Lionstone and you think that you can't have a team without her and there's just simply no other way to play the game, that's fine. It's your game and you can play how you want to play, but don't use them both because you'll be nerfing your damage too much and then there's no point of having the Female Lionstone in the first place. Male Lume also synergizes very well with the new clan, the Devala, because their whole thing is trying to heal and sustain. So again, when we're picking these teams, we're not just looking at who's going to do big damage, I go Bert and I win. If you're playing the game in a way where you're building your whole team to just do big damage and not have any utility or sustain or defense of any kind, then you're going to feel like there's a burst meta where you have to use your Female Lionstone and you have to use these burst mages, or you just simply die and you don't get to win. Because you're building your team in a way where that becomes true. But if you're building your team in a different way where that's not true and you set up a battle of attrition, then you're going to win the battle of attrition. It's still possible to get over your head with these fights and the team just has too much damage and you get blown up and your sustain didn't work. But usually that's going to be because you're underleveled, you're fighting a team that is significantly higher power than you, and you were going to lose anyway, no matter which one you were playing. I really wish I had the ability to just set up the perfect team that I want to be working and actually test it out. It's the same one I said in the Devala video, which would be a Male Lionstone, or female if that's what you like, both Devalas, a Male Lume, and a Male ASN. And then for traits on those teams, I would want to have Resilient, Energetic, brutal, and aggressive on just about anybody, and I would probably try to fit in hulking instead of aggressive on my male lionstone, and I think you'd be sustaining forever and doing huge numbers and having a good old time. Maybe I'm just excited about that team because I think it sounds fun, but I think it would do a huge amount of damage. And I think you'd have a really great time. And of course, both Devala people together can kind of act as a frontliner because they heal so much on their own. The female can be your only frontliner for the first part of the game and take all of the damage and survive through it. And when she ults, which she will do very quickly because she's taking so much damage, she is going to drop all of her aggro and send it over to the other Devala, who is then going to be sustaining really, really well with the build that we've talked about. I think that the Male Lume is a very good champion. I think that he is the best healer in the game. And I think that sustain comps can do very well. They kind of require a lot in terms of setup, and if you're not doing all of that setup, you may be running into a problem where you feel like the healing isn't enough. I don't think that's because the healing isn't enough. I think it's because it requires a lot to build it the right way. If you do like having these guides on each individual character, then feel free to subscribe for more, as I'll be making 1 or 2 of them a week for the foreseeable future. But I want to thank you for watching. I have been RagePanda1, and I will see you in the next one.